Hello and welcome back to They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm your host, Charlie Mann. I am super duper excited for this guest today. And I know that I say that I'm super duper excited for my guests, but legitimately, I'm only inviting people on who I am really excited to talk with. But this is I would say that this really is extra special. Among this first group of guests, this is extra special because this is someone who I have known for 13 years, 13 and a half years, give or take. I've been in mastermind groups participating with him in the old Dan Kennedy Platinum or Titanium Mastermind. But I first met him at one of the Great Legal Marketing events, one of the very first ones I ever went to. And since then, he has been the person who I turn to on all things hiring, but also just and what I think we're going to dig into, just being a kind of a great person, a high performer. He's an amazing coach, not just a hiring coach, though he knows that world very well. He's a great coach of attorneys, great coach of executives. And he's someone, and I say that this is a particularly important note because I think this says a lot about a human being, someone who over the last 13 years gave me the space to be a new person. And what I mean by that is someone who had the capacity to say, okay, I'm meeting this version of Charlie, and let's say it's just, I'm meeting this version of person Y. 5 years down the line, I'm willing to meet the new version of person Y who's gained some experience and not just see him as the intern. I think that that is a rare quality in a human being and an important success quality. So I'm so excited to have as my guest of Real Talent Hiring, Jay Henderson. Jay, seriously, so good to have you here, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. How you been? You doing good?
I've been really good. I mean, if I can be Jay Henderson good, then it'll be a really good day. But I've been good, man. I've been really good. So, Jay, my friend, let me ask you I'm going to call it the immortal question because why not, make my show all the fancier. The immortal question, what is one thing they don't teach you in law school?
Yeah. So as I've thought about that, and of course, there's an old saying that says, he who's good with a hammer tends to think everything is a nail. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to sort of go at what I think that is from my angle, which is, they don't teach people, and I don't know of any college actually or any school that teaches people how to drive performance in other people, how to truly understand what creates performance and what blocks performance, and how to get people to do what you want them to do, what they need to do to perform for the organization.
And I know you've done that, Jay, on several levels, individually, in groups, and I know you worked with the Covey Institute for a long time, right? So you have a huge history with this. So talk to me, human performance, and actually really what drove you into the human performance realm?
Yeah, I became really, so I've always sort of had this weird, what makes that person tick and what makes that person tick? A lot of people think like that, right? It's just curiosity, really, about people. The more I thought about that, and I started reading books and learning. And when I was 18 years old, my dad turned me on to audio cassette tapes, driving down the road in the car, listening to public speakers. And that I became enamored with listening to these people who talked about great stuff like how you think and personal development and trying to be your best and growing and developing and reading the books and listening to the seminars, and all that kind of thing. And so I got really into that, and it just sort of was a natural, the combination of what makes people tick and then learning those kinds of things. And then the really the benefits that came into my own personal life because of reading the books and listening and going to the seminars. And, and I was young, this is pre-college. So I started studying that kind of stuff before college.
Wow.
Memorizing quotes and learning about the brain. And so when I went to college, it was natural for me to gravitate to, I was into business, I was into sales, but it was natural for me to navigate into psychology and particularly sports psychology. In fact, I was going to get, I had a dream and a goal to sort of get a PhD in sports psychology.
I've known you for over a decade. Didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Oh, totally into it. I mean,
I feel terrible. I didn't ask that question, Jay. I feel like a guilty friend here.
No, yeah, right. No, but I mean, that's what it was for me. I was really, because I didn't like the what I might consider the negative side of, or the depressing side or whatever of psychology. I mean, I'm glad it's there to help people who
Sure.
get value from that, certainly. But I really enjoyed the positivity side. In fact, if I just look Saturday, so there was a golf tournament with these celebrities in Tahoe this past weekend, right? So I'm really into golf for those of you. So anyway, I happened to be watching for a couple of hours or an hour or whatever it was. Saturday, I'm watching these past athletes and whatnot play this golf tournament, right? And Steph Curry, who freaks me out.
Yeah.
So, okay, now this is logical, right? I'm going from sports psychology, to Steph Curry, who, from what we see in the media and watching him in games, like doesn't miss 3-pointers or whatever.
Right.
It's pretty rare. Freaky, right? What this guy does. Now you got to have a special, not only the ability to do a 3-point shot, right? But you've got to have a special mind to perform under those conditions. And we've all heard about this kind of stuff. So Saturday, he has this hole-in-one at this golf tournament. So I chime into this TV show, and I'm like, oh, and there's the guy, Steph Curry, hole-in-one. Of course he had a hole-in-one. I mean, not only can the guy shoot 3-pointers from all over the place, but he can, hole-in-one, who has
That's criminal. That's criminal. That level of skill should be outlawed.
That is what I'm saying. Like, I've played golf for like 20 some odd years, and I've never had a hole-in-one, and I'm not that bad at it. but anyway, so then yesterday, Sunday, like he comes from 2 or 3 points behind to win this tournament on the last hole. Freaky. Like he drains like this 11-foot eagle putt, and it's pandemonium, and I'm going, okay, so here's the thing, so I got into how do people think, got into the sports psych world, was totally intrigued with it, went to school, studied it like crazy. I got into it. Then I went to work for Covey. I'm going to connect this dot because you brought up having worked for Stephen Covey, right?
So I open a loop. You're going to close it. I appreciate it.
So I went to work for Stephen Covey, which was awesome. He was an amazing human being, by the way. Lived his material. Real deal. And anyway, there was a gentleman that worked there. His name was, in fact, I told this at an event one time where you were. There was a guy there named Dick Roth who won a silver medal as a swimmer in the 1964 Olympics. And so I worked for him. We were on the same team, and he was a sports psych nut also. So he and I got permission to start building the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Athletes way back.
Whoa.
In the day. Yeah. So we started working down that path to build a course, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Athletes. And at the same time, and I'm gonna stop in a second here, but ultimately, I found out that right down the road was an organization that was actually using sports psych principles to teach leaders and managers in Fortune 500 companies how to coach others to higher performance. How do you help a manager? So somebody's a producer, they're good at what they do, they become a manager, they've got some competency and skill, they get promoted into management, but do they really understand how to drive? They can get performance out of themselves like Steph Curry can, but can they get performance out of other people, which they don't teach you in law school? So I went over there to that organization, which was phenomenal experience. And anyway, that's how I got on. That's kind of the long story for how I got into it.
It's funny. So like Jay, everyone who's coming on the show will tell like a long story and be like, oh, that was a long story. That's the only kind of story. That's the only kind of communication I understand is tangent based, opened loops. Sometimes we close them, sometimes we don't. Let's just have fun with the conversation, right? Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's it.
So no story too long here. I have to mention, because you brought up 7 Habits. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is my #1 most recommended book among all of my coaching clients. It has been for a long, long time because, Jay, it is that book that everyone read at some point but didn't do anything with the habits. I'm sure you've encountered that, right?
So, I
We're
mean,
both knowingly nodding and laughing about it.
well, in fact, that is so true that when I was at Covey, one of the big, after Covey went ballistic, right? The book was phenomenal, and everybody started buying it. It became the largest training firm in the world for a time, but it wasn't long before all the clients began to call up and say, "So how do we do this?"
Right.
Great material, love the book. Stephen's amazing. How do we do this stuff? Which is what you're saying.
Yeah. So, okay. How do we do it, Jay?
How do we do it? Here's the thing, man. Like, not only do we never sort of learn, unless we focus on it, how to get the best out of other people, but we don't understand human performance and why people do what they do, right? So there's personality profiles and all kinds of great ways to measure who somebody is and how they think. And if you don't go through that, could I call it a prism? Like if you don't go through that, paradigm, through their, so I call it how to get into the world of the performer. That's like, so you don't have to like lose yourself and not have a brain and totally get into their world and, give them whatever they want. That's not the point. The idea though is to understand them so deeply that why they do what they do and what the decisions that they make are and are going to be. That's why I'm in the hiring business. I really never wanted to be in the hiring business. I'm not actually like a damaging admission here. I'm not actually like the world hiring guru. Do you know what I mean? But I am, if I may say, a worldwide guru in measuring how people think and make decisions. And I have an objective mathematical system, not a subjective behavior-based tool. I love them all. I'm saying use anything you can to get into the world of the performer, so you understand and their paradigm and what they're coming from. It's like Covey used to say. He used to say, people say to me, I don't understand my kid. I don't understand my kid. He doesn't listen to me. And Covey's like, oh, wait a minute. You don't listen to him? I mean, you don't understand him because he doesn't listen to you? Right?
Oh,
right?
You just slapped some wisdom down there, my friend.
So habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? So anyway, but all right, so that I don't like lose where I was going. This idea of getting into the world of the performer and knowing. And so how do you do that, right? Well, there's different ways of measuring people. And then there's understanding that information. And then there's having the capacity, because we all get so busy. It's like how sometimes we just chuck stuff at people. Go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this. And sometimes the communication isn't full. And sometimes we're not doing it. And we're giving people things to do that they can't do. You can train someone how to do stuff that they can't do. Anyway.
No, okay. So I want to dig into that, but I want to mention something. You mentioned earlier, Jay, like, hey, I'm not the hiring guru. So I want to put this little bit of philosophy out there because I actually think it's a really helpful framework for folks like you and me, which is I classify this whole like coaching, information marketing, training, yada, yada space in 3 separate levels. You have gurus, you have thought leaders, and then you have what I call thought owners. And a guru is a classic, like, do what I do, right? So let's say someone wants to become great at shooting 3-pointers, right? Follow Steph Curry, like pay attention to what he's doing. What's his practice schedule like? What's his routine like? How did he get good at that? But then there's a different category. So like you're not spending every single day actually for yourself hiring 100 people, right? That's not the case. So a lot of people want to follow the guru and they try and duplicate what that guru does. And the guru oftentimes is never more than, quite frankly, just a guru, right? They continue to model good behavior, but you're always playing catch up with a guru. This is the issue that I find with the guru space. The guru, like in the coaching space, a guru classically for me, Jay, is someone who recommends a book, and you read that book. You're like, oh, I want to read that book to be more like my guru. And by the time you get done reading the book, the guru goes, haha, but you see, I have already read the next book. This is what you should be reading now. And you never catch up, right? You never catch up with it. You, Jay, are a thought leader. You have this category of space in which you have frameworks, you have tools, and you have the wealth of experience in assisting people getting this great outcome. It allows you to be that thought leader. It's not duplicate what I do. It's duplicate this profound amount of data, experience, wisdom, and odds making that improves your outcome. I literally tell every coaching client, I wouldn't surprise me if you do the same, that I'm not going to bat 1,000 with you. I'm not going to give you 100% of the right decisions, but I bet we can get you to about 60 to 65% right decisions. And in a world where most people play with 20% right decisions, you have heavy odds in your favor. So you're a thought leader to me, Jay. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Cool. You know, and you made me think of a way I see it, right? And this is looping right back to what we were just talking about, is that
Jay's like, I got to keep this thing on track. You're not even the host, and you're like,
I just find it interesting that it does.
I love this.
Yeah, but the I see it as not different. I mean, I see it anyway. It's not an argument.
You can disagree with me. That's fine.
Well, no, I get exactly what you're saying. I also have a way of thinking about this, which is there's mentors, which is sort of how you were the guru, and then there's teachers, and then there's coaches. All right.
I like it.
So, you know, as a boss, how do you get the best out of people? Well, you can mentor them, which is kind of a distant relationship. You know, they're like a lawyer. You're a lawyer. They're an associate to you. Every now and again, they get a strategy question. You mentor them through making better decisions, etc. Teacher, right? They come, they get a job with you. We teach them how we do law, how I do law, right? A little different, right? Yeah. Coaching is people call it coaching the information marketing world. They're going to train you on a system. They call that coaching. Yeah. I don't call that coaching. I call that teaching. It doesn't really matter that much, but here's where it does matter. And that is when you're going to get the best out of other people in your organization. It's more than mentoring, and it's more than teaching. You've got to be able to coach people. And that I was talking a little while ago about going through how they think and make decisions, the way they think, getting in their world and who they are. But coaching skills is very different than teaching skills and being a mentor.
Okay, so talk to me about that you've got maybe a firm that you're working with and they are in need of that. Okay, you guys are able to teach, but what you're not doing is developing your people. How do you help a firm make that shift?
Awesome question, because there's some really powerful information out there about that. I love this paradigm. Okay, I'm going to give you a paradigm that comes from when I left Covey and I went to this other organization. And I'll tell you all, go get this book. You Already Know How to Be Great.
Ooh, I love that title.
Okay, and the author is Alan Fine, A-L-A-N, Fine, F-I-N-E. Okay, this is material that I teach all the time because I worked with Alan. I left Covey and I went to Alan. And I kept trying to get the guy to write a book and he never did. Then I left and he wrote the book. Anyway, but you know, and by the way, this also, Alan got it, you know, there's no new knowledge, that whole thing. Alan Fine got it from Timothy Gallwey, who wrote The Inner Game of Tennis, or The Inner Game of Work, or The Inner Game of Stress, or The Inner Game of Golf, or The Inner Game of, he wrote all those books. Because there's a whole philosophy that comes out of the inner game, right? So we want to drive performance in our organization, which, by the way, people talk about culture, you know, leadership and culture, and how do you build a culture? Well, to me, you got to build a culture of performance. Okay, so now your question was, how do you do that? I'm going to go to the paradigm that is in Alan's book that he really got from Timothy Gallwey. And the paradigm is you have more potential than you're currently utilizing. Or let's put it as a leader. Your team has more potential than they are currently utilizing. I mean, I think everybody would agree that's probably true.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And the second part is that potential is blocked by interference. Okay? And interference, clearly one word that represents anything that gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So the third part is interference is reduced by focusing attention. So everybody knows, all right, KPIs, that's one way to focus attention. We build benchmarks, we do KPIs, we measure, we give goals, and we do all these things to get people to focus attention, which is hopefully, they don't think of it this way, right? But hopefully it's reducing interference so that we can access more potential. That's the idea, right? The last part is, the fourth part, if you will, is focused attention is increased through coaching. So not mentoring, not teaching, those things are helpful, but everybody here's had the experience of having like a parent or some coach or somebody tell them to do things they already know that they're how to do or to do.
Yes.
Or to not do things that they already know they should not be doing, but don't know how to stop doing that. And even we do that to ourselves. Man, I know better. Like, why am I not good with my time management? You know, how come I delay? How come whatever? See, that's going now back to the profile stuff and getting in people's heads and in their world. Okay, well, anyway. So you have more potential than you're currently utilizing. That potential is blocked by interference. Interference is reduced by focusing attention, and focusing attention is increased through coaching. All right, so that's kind of the paradigm of how you get better performance out of people. It's not in focusing on how to reduce interference. Right. Interference is blocking us all over the place. But it's not in overcoming the interference. So Timothy Galway in his book, he said, focus is what distracts us from whatever is distracting us. Now, this all sounds a little airy-fairy, wooey-wooey. I know.
I love it. You and I are speaking mutual language, but yeah.
I am telling you, this is the hardest result-oriented stuff on the planet. It is. The thing is, all I'm doing with this philosophy, this paradigm, is sharing with you why people don't do. It's not that they don't know what to do. Right. If I want to lose weight, I know darn well, man. Stop eating the Doritos, Jay. Have a bowl of ice cream every night. Work out more. We all know what to do, yeah? So the issue isn't always about knowing what to do. It's about getting ourselves to do what we know. That's what coaching does for people. It helps them get out of their own way so that they can access their best stuff and perform at their highest level. It helps them overcome the interference, not on by focusing attention and making better decisions in the right direction. And there's a skill to it. Okay, so that's all you asked me. You basically were asking me, what's the skill? And I'm saying the skill is coaching, but there's a way to coach. That point about.
Okay, so what is that way?
Yeah, your point about your parents telling you what to do all the time. So in the coaching world, there's a great line that says, people will do a better job that they're committed to when it's their bad idea than they will with your good idea
yes.
that they're not committed to.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the fact. My brother was the #1 junior golfer in America when he was 16. Played with Tiger. You can look him up online. Go Google 1993 American Junior Golf Association, Michael Henderson, and you'll see the whole record. Tiger's in there and everything. He was unbelievable. He won like almost everything. Anyway, he had a sports psychologist named Bob Rotella. Another great book, by the way, How Champions Think. Get and read that book, How Champions Think by Bob Rotella. And Bob would tell my dad, like, look, because they would meet together, my dad and my brother. And he would say, listen, Michael's the one out there in the fairway having to make the decisions. Yeah. You can't coach from the sideline. You can't do that. They won't even allow it. You know. Anyway, the idea is they'll do a better job with their bad idea that they're committed to. Okay.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So, yes, you and I know this to be absolutely true, and I know all of us fall into the bad habit of times of going, especially when I'm working with law firm owners, I can see them going, I just want to tell my team to just do X. Because if they just do X, it will work.
Right.
But it's hard to have that type of relationship. And I'm talking about even like the human performance side. Like I just want them to make non-reactive decisions. I keep telling them to make non-reactive decisions, to respond instead of react. Sphere of concern versus sphere of control. How do we actually affect the change? How do we trick people into change, essentially?
Yeah. So that's perfectly great. So it's really asking questions. Okay. So remember the paradigm, potential is more potential. It's blocked by interference. Interference is reduced through focusing attention. The issue is how do you get them to focus attention? So the way we're doing it now is KPIs and whatnot. But that's an outside-in approach. We are telling them, here's your KPI. Be excited.
Yeah. How do you get them to be excited? Ooh, I have to ask that question on behalf of every coach and client.
It's kind of the same answer. So the third part was interference is reduced through focusing attention. So if you can create focus in people, how do you create focus? You get them clear. They got to get clarity. There's a million things to do. You have a million things to do. How do you get them clear on what they're going to do? It's prioritization, knowing exactly what outcome I want, knowing exactly how to go get. So I want to tell them what to do. If they'll just do what I tell them to do, they'll be successful. But they're not connecting to it because they are different than you. We are good at telling, and we see it, but they may not see it. There's 4 things that make telling work. You know exactly what to say. They're interested in. They can interpret. This might sound really weird because we are talking different languages.
I love weird though. Weird's paradigm.
Good. Their head is not in the same space yours is. It's not an intelligence issue. I had 11, many of you will know I had an assistant here for 11 years, Jennifer. She had a genius IQ, literally was a Mensa card carrying genius.
Really?
And she came to me about 4 months after working here and she said, this has blown my mind because she was watching me profile and measure and debrief all these people on these different profiles and how these people thought. She said, I have realized because of this science that they're not dumb. She said, my whole life, I'm the only smart person out there. These people are just stupid, She goes, I've realized they're actually not dumb. They just have a bias. Their bias is different. And so anyway, all right. Without getting too tangential.
Please get tangential.
You got to use that word after you use the word dumb. Anyway, but okay. So I was talking about clarity. How do you help them get clear? You ask them questions. I mean, as ridiculous and simple as it sounds, you can tell people what to do. Okay, I was on the telling thing, wasn't I? So you got to know exactly what the instructions are. They have to be able to translate it. You have to be able to tell them in a way that they will get, and they have to be interested in the information. Then they got to have the skill to go and do it the way you said to go and do it. So telling, when are all 4 or 5 of those pieces in place? It's kind of rare, really. So you ask questions, or you train. It's a combination of training.
Okay, good. I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah. Because I think that's sometimes. Because I've known you for a while, Jay, and I know like when we've had conversations, like you've been my guy that when in the past when I've been hiring people, I've got to talk to Jay, and you do this combination of asking questions, probing questions like what am I really looking for, what's the outcome that I desire, all that type of stuff. But you also at times do give relatively pointed advice. How do you know, like as someone who's been doing this a decent amount of time. I mean, you're all of 38 years old, give or take, right, Jay?
How did you do that? It's amazing. You should be in the circus.
For other reasons, yes, I should be. But you've been doing this for long enough that you seem to have some type of instinct of when this person needs a firm hand, needs some guidance, needs some structure, versus asking the question. How do you get to that point? Is there something that you're looking for?
Well, so when I'm doing the hiring piece and I'm advising a business owner about who they should or should not bring on or promote or make a partner or whatever that need is, right? When I am doing that, I am doing that based on objective mathematical science. So
Right.
I know exactly what the advice should be. So that's very simple, because it's like they need to know this and do that. If I'm doing executive coaching with my clients, then I always start on the other side, which is not the advice part. It's the listening and the listening for, and the being that sounding board, because every business owner, their partner wants the business. They can't tell their spouse sometimes.
Yeah.
And their employees don't get it. So who do
Yes.
they talk to? So having an executive coach is super powerful for them. But when I'm doing that, it's a matter of, I start from the questioning side. And then if they don't get clear from there, then I'm like, you might want to consider. And by the way, I'm also, Charlie, using their profile. I never, ever forget how they think and make decisions. Because I don't want to, I can fall into that trap as well of telling when they can't connect those dots. So
that is always one of the most difficult things, especially as you have so much experience working with executives. I imagine there are plenty of times where you just kind of want to grab their shoulders and shake them and say, we could make this easy if you would just let me say what you're supposed to do. But it's not even the idea of you can lead a horse to water and you can't make it drink. It's like, literally in this case, we have to show the horse how to find water. And then they can make the decision on whether or not to drink on their own. You mentioned in those 4 stages of training, clarity, all that, the person has to be interested.
Yeah.
To kind of coming from it from both sides. So I see this a lot with folks I work with. How do you either get them interested or figure out if they simply will never be interested?
That's a great question. So how do you get them interested that's the questioning part. It's like you ask questions of them about what they can or would do until they're exhausted, by the way. And then, you know what I mean? Like if you've exhausted their knowledge base or their skill set, and by then they're usually open, more open. Like, gosh, I don't know, but what do you think I should do? And now they're interested. So to me, it's a matter of asking questions, like what have you tried? How did it go? What happened? There's a model to this. Actually, it's in the book. You already know how to be great. It's called GROW, and it stands for Goal, Reality, Options, Way Forward. And GROW isn't new information. It is been around forever. No matter what conversation you're in one of those 4 stages. You're either talking about the goal or what is happening, the reality, or what could happen, the options, or what will happen, the way forward. You know what I mean? So, but people get stuck and they don't systematically go through that. We're all over the place because of our interference.
So what I really love here, Jay, is you've got a lot of different frameworks that you obviously have and are capable of going to by, heuristic default in coaching people. Let's say we've got a law firm owner listening to the show, and there are law firm owners listening to the show, and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to try out some of this coaching thing. I want to maximize human performance in my people. What would be a really good either starting framework or just starting salvo of how to handle that transition?
Yeah. I gave you the paradigm. That's the starting point. There's more potential. It's blocked by interference. Interference is reduced through focused attention. Focused attention is increased through grow.
I love the grow model, by the way.
Grow model, I got to tell you, it's like, you know, the grow model, whoops.
There you go. Look at that. For those of you who are listening,
model,
not looking, Jay held up an image of it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, people might be watching this on YouTube and can actually see it.
So people have all this interference, and how do you help them reduce interference? It's like you get in your car, you start to drive, and it's not going as fast as it usually does, and you're punching on the gas. What's the problem? And you're giving it the gas, and it's not going in, and you realize the emergency brake's on. And this is the analogy, see? And your employees aren't necessarily stupid. They might be, but you know, so...
Oh, no.
I believe in the best in people, but...
You do.
But I do. But the thing is, sometimes the emergency breaks on, you know? And so, so long story short, so the starting point is the philosophy, the paradigm. And the second part is grow as a mechanism. You know, like anybody can sit down at a piano and start hitting the notes. Yeah. And so you could say you're playing music. But,
I do it all the time.
But the trick is to know the order and the manner of hitting the notes in order to really make beautiful music. The people that are great are the ones that know how and when to hit the notes. Grow systematizes and organizes the thinking process. Mm-hmm. So because now, and not only does it help, it helps organize the other person's thoughts. I talked about them getting clear or focused. When you take somebody through grow, they are clear and focused. They will be clear and focused. That's how you get them there. And grow is questions. I kept talking about you ask questions. Yeah.
There's so that the book, You Already Know How to Be Great. That would be an awesome starting resource for someone who wants to implement grow. That's phenomenal.
And if you like Audible, which I'm an Audible freak, I listen to everything.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Alan he's Welsh. He's from Wales, so he has a great Welsh accent. He reads the book. He does a terrific job. I put it on 1.7 because I've heard it 50 million times. But you know, he's a little slow in there, but you can speed it up, and it's terrific. And it's honestly some of the most powerful information. So look, here we are again. We're going to close a loop. How do you do the 7 habits? You know what we used to call our work when I was at the company with Alan? His company's called Inside Out. We used to call it the 8th habit. Grow is like the 8th habit. Covey wrote a book called The 8th Habit, which is going from effective to greatness. But really, grow is the practical side of all this theory stuff. You know, like I was able to leave Inside Out and start my own business because I had 2 things that I knew I would not be able to fail because of these 2 things in my business. One was an objective mathematical science that nobody else has that is so accurate, it's ridiculous. It is. It's not perfect.
I'm going to tell a story in a second about it, but yes.
And it's like it nails people but it's more than nailing them. Other tools nail people too, but what they measure isn't the right stuff. And I'm not being critical of it. It just isn't the full story. Okay, so anyway, number 1, I had that, and number 2, I had grow, and I knew how to coach people to high performance. And I've studied sports psychology for years, so I know what's going on. And by the way, here's the other part about your thing about guru, and you know, and I was talking about mentor and teacher and coach. Yeah. You actually don't have to be a subject matter expert in order to coach someone effectively. Like I have clients that own huge law firms. They're private jets and, you know, $12 million houses, one here and one there. And, you know, and they call me for coaching, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a business that's got 300 people, you know, anyway. All right. So,
look, I was talking with a previous guest. The episode will be out by the time this one comes out. Kellum Parks, who he has an amazing law firm. Yeah, you know, like great guy. Yeah. And he was saying, you know, bless him, he was being very generous to me, saying, look, the unique perspective that I bring in that you bring, Jay, is the outsider's perspective of we're not concerned with how it's been done or how it is, and I use very big, bold air quotes around this one, how it's supposed to be done. We're trying to help people uncover the way that they would best do it, decoupled from years, maybe decades of identity, of habituation, and just saying, look, what if we just reset it at a complete blank slate? And people freak out about the idea of that tabula rasa state of stepping back and going, right? We have to know that they then have to acknowledge, have I been doing it wrong for the past 10 years? That's hard to grapple with, but those 10 years are past. They don't matter anymore. It is the 10 years going forward that matter the most. And that, isn't it amazing when someone like breathes that sigh of relief or has that moment of epiphany? Like, that's why we're doing this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it is so true. People, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, it's identity, and then they don't like to change, and it's a whole new learning curve. And
yeah.
I mean, I know for a fact, because of the profile, there are people who will study a subject until the opportunity's passed, make a decision about the way they're going to go about it, start going down that path, get new data telling them they need to change, and they won't.
Yeah.
I know that happens for a fact, right? Okay, so there's that issue. Here's the other thing about it. This idea you said about supposed to be done. What I love about what you're bringing that up is it fits so well, because performance is not found in what ought to be. Performance is found in what is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you stay stuck in what ought to be and what should be, which that's important, but it isn't what generates. What generates the change, to make it easier, is what is happening. Awareness of what is happening. You want more revenue? What is your revenue now? I'm going to give you 3 things that are really important right now.
God, I love this.
I've literally got this on a 3x5 right on my computer, so I never forget to talk about this. Not on this call. I've had this here for like a year. but the point is, you know, if you want anything to change, okay, revenue, whatever it might be, okay, conversion rate, closings and whatnot, you ask yourself the question, what is it now? So you get the data, okay, then you say, what do I want it to be, right? All right, then you have the difference, and you can delineate the value of the difference, and you now know what steps you need to take to move from where you are to where you want to go. But like where you are now, that's what is happening. Most people only think about, where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? And they forget. Now, consultants and coaches and smart books and things teach people, go get the data. You got it. But that's where, anyway, that's this idea of, so when you coach someone by asking effective questions, and there's more questions than just the grow model, but when you coach someone, and I'm talking to you leaders who are talking to your employees, when you're asking questions, don't worry about being perfect about that. You ask questions until they become clear. When they're clear, they'll know what to go do. They'll get it, and they'll know what to go and do, see? And then they'll be better, more effective with being committed to their bad decision than perfectly implementing your good decision. But that's right back to, how do you motivate people? Like you said earlier, people are motivated when they have a clear path and they know what to do. There's a great quote in the sales world that says, a confused mind never buys. So a confused mind, or an interfered with mind, or an unclear, cluttered mind, doesn't know what decision to make and can't go perform at a high level. This is why you want to hire people who, regardless of their background and regardless of their IQ, actually have good, clear judgment. That's the trick, man. Because if they have clear judgment, they're going to see and get it and understand and know what decision to make, even if they don't have an MBA or whatever.
Yeah, it's going through life with a level, the way that I frame it is, it's going through life with a level of intentionality. And I think I've found, super performers like you, a lot of people that I work with, that level of showing intention in the decisions being made. I was actually just talking with a coaching client earlier today who he's like throwing his hands up in the air over trying to find talent, and he's got job ads running, all that stuff. And he says only 10% of the people applying actually follow the instruction on the job ad. And I said, yeah, that's how it normally goes, is 90% of the people won't follow your instructions. They won't really read the job ad. But right. That's the superpower of a lot of successful people. It's not that they actually did the best cover letter or have the best resume. They just read the job ad, cared a little bit extra, and did the application the right way.
Yeah. Agreed.
The line between success and sloppy, it's just that. It's just intentionality. It's not as hard as people think.
Yeah. And
Jay,
people who have a good judgment, they can do that. They can do that better.
Like we all know those people, and we also know the inverse of those people. We've encountered folks who, they've got drama following around them like a stray dog, and they cannot seem to get rid of the darn thing. And even worse, they keep feeding it and then wondering why that dog continues to follow them every single day. And the drama keeps coming. They can't help themselves.
Great. I love that. So good. Exactly. That is so good.
That one was right off the top of the head. So I will admit, Jay,
I love that.
Inside, I am absolutely indulging myself and going like, Charlie, that was a good one. You've done well today. Congrats, buddy.
Be your own best coach, brother. That's good.
Right. All right, Jay, if people want, and you'll be back for another episode, undoubtedly. We'll keep digging into human performance. I'm actually really excited to, next time we talk, like take this in a even wider structure within a firm. Like, how do we collectively improve people, actions we can take there? The shout out I've been giving is anyone listening to one of these episodes, if you want to make sure that a guest like Jay gets bumped to the top of the list as fast as possible, leave a review in any one of the podcast apps mentioning Jay, and we'll make sure to get him on even sooner than I expect to have him back on. But Jay, if people are interested in learning more about the work that you do, working with you as a coach, and let me say, the hiring stuff that you do is unbelievable. When you talk about being objective, I will never forget. There's probably a couple dozen calls I will never forget with you, including one where you point blank said, look, just so you know, if you hire this person, they probably they're hiding some type of illness is the likelihood, and they're going to have a really hard time just showing up for work, and that might be difficult. You need to be prepared for that. We hired the person. It was a little bit of a thing, but she was such a strong performer, and we knew it going in that it didn't catch us off guard. Now, there was another candidate that you said, look, just so you know, Charlie, if your place of work, like if you guys say anything offensive, she will sue you. I was like, Jay, that's the first hour of the first day with us. So
Wow.
Like, it modeled so perfectly. You had not met this individual, but it modeled so perfectly a suspicion that we had in our heads. That's one of the things I tell everyone about what you do, Jay. Not only like the executive coaching side, you bring out the best in people. Everyone should have a conversation with Jay Henderson. I mean that from the bottom and top of my heart. I don't know why people only say bottom of the heart. Bottom and top and in between parts of my heart. And then people should be using you for all their hiring decisions, because what you do in terms of giving voice oftentimes just to the suspicions that people have in the interview room, that articulation of the unknown,
right,
and the articulation of the known with a level of precision that allows someone to go, I wasn't crazy for seeing that in the candidate, right, and I should be deeply concerned. That's so valuable. Thank you for what you do, Jay. Thank you. And thank you for over a decade of friendship.
Oh, man, it's great to talk to you, and I appreciate that. Can I tell a quick story about the
Please
profile?
do.
Brief. Crazy story. So this doctor calls me from Virginia, and she says, hey, I've got this doctor who works for me, an associate doctor, and she's a rock star. She's helped me for 5 years. Everyone loves her. My patients love her. I love her. She's fantastic, and I want to promote her. I want to make her a partner. I'm going to give her a part of my business. She's going to be an equity holder, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I can see all the good. I see all the talent that is there. I wouldn't do that right now. Well, Jay, why not? Now, just caveat really quickly, I do not measure honesty. You're not validated to measure honesty. So I can't say somebody would be honest or dishonest. I don't know that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
However, we see these markers that indicate there's susceptibility. That's the word I always use to my clients. I say, look, this person's susceptible to inappropriate behavior. Well, Jay, what does that mean? And I don't always know what it means. But their values and rules and shoulds are not pushing on them. Therefore, they are kind of floating, and kind of whatever goes might be okay with them. Anyway, so I say to this doctor, just don't do it. Probably right now I wouldn't, I can see the talent, phenomenal ladies, fantastic. But so long story short, literally she calls me a year and a half later. And they answer the phone. She said, hey, Jay, guess who visited me yesterday? I said, who? She said, the FBI. And I said, what'd she do? And she goes, oh, you remember? I said, yeah, I know. She goes, she's been selling fake opioid prescriptions with her, doctor's credibility all over America. And the FBI came in and they took her out. And she said, and I did not make her a partner. Your advice. And she said, if I would have, they would have shut me down. I'd be out of business. That's just a
sigh of relief.
Crazy story. And I have others, but I won't get into, because we're busy on time. But anyway, thank you for bringing that up. And I love helping everyone. And listen, Charlie, I've watched you really become a pro. And by the way, everybody, I know Charlie's profile, and for $5 I will reveal to you because I'm so ethical. No, I'm joking, but no, seriously. Charlie is an amazing person and a great guy, and I would never say that because my reputation's on the line.
You know what? Okay, I'm going to throw this crazy idea out there, Jay. I'm going to put this out in the universe and maybe we revisit it in the future.
All right.
We do let's find maybe a joint charity. We do a fundraiser for that charity, and based on hitting a certain number, we bust out my profile and we talk about, honestly, we talk about that out in the open and kind of do a back and forth on that. Might be a really interesting thing to do. And now it's recorded here on a podcast.
That'd be fun. I'm down. Let's do it. Whatever.
All right. I'm going to figure out a way to make that happen. That'd be cool, man.
Great. That's awesome.
So people can reach you at realtalenthiring.com. Where else can they catch you?
Oh, I do. I have a website called thinktowin.com. THINKTO win, WIN.com. Thinktowin.com. So realtalenthiring.com or thinktowin.com. Thank you, Charlie. It's been great.
Thank you. Awesome. And we will see you, the listener or viewer, on the next episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School.